Let's move on to the next session of the day, where again we have an outstanding speaker, General Arun. General Arun is Indian Army, is posted at Army headquarters. He is going to be talking to us on leadership and purpose. And before I will present him to you, let me wish General Arun a very happy birthday to you, sir. Today is happened to be his birthday, and he is talking to us on leadership and purpose. General Arun, just recouping from his COVID-19, he got infected, and imagine since he's committed to MMA, though he is recouping from COVID, he spoke to us and he is going to share with you his story. Listen to General Arun, presenting to you Lieutenant General Arun, going to be talking to us on leadership and purpose.
Lieutenant General A. Arun, YSM, SM, VSM, Director General Strategic Planning, Army Headquarters, New Delhi. Joined the National Defence Academy in Jan 1982, opting not to join the IIT despite an All India rank of 13, commissioned into 8 Grenadiers on 14th December 1985. He is a graduate of the Defence Services Staff College, Wellington, India, Centre for Defence and Strategic Studies, Canberra, Australia, and National Defence College, New Delhi. Experience in planning and delivery of personnel management and logistics in international task forces in Cambodia and Sierra Leone, and short-term projects in forecasting and structuring of large coalitions, including significant civilian components at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Attended the prestigious Senior Missions Leaders course conducted by the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. Multiple master's degrees in defense, strategic management, nation building and conflict prevention and creative writing. Postgraduate studies in personal management, human resources development and creative writing. Fellow of the Centre for Defence and Strategic Studies in Canberra, Australia, following a successful post-master's academics program. Seriously wounded in operations in Jammu and Kashmir. A recipient of the Sena Medal for Gallantry, Yudh Seva Medal for Outstanding Leadership in Conflict, the Vishisht Seva Medal for Distinguished Leadership and Outstanding Service in Jan 2018, and awarded the Chief of Army Staff's Commendation 4 times in addition to the North Star Medal for Excellence. Created a record by successfully conducting a very large workshop for about 17,200 students from all over India on leadership and happiness in one session.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot tell you what a pleasure and a privilege it is to be sharing the screen with probably what is my most favorite and professional organization that I have had the pleasure of interacting with. A year and a half back, I didn't know of the existence of the Madras Management Association. Today, I have nothing but the greatest of respect for it. So before we begin, of course, thanks to the MMA for this path-breaking, and I think seriously, if you were to consider it in that manner, a life-changing experience which is being organized for all of us who are students of management. You don't have to necessarily be in a college. So thank you very much. The second thing is, I want to apologize for if I cough in between. The past 28 days or so, I have been constantly on oxygen therapy, consequent to very bad effects of COVID. And today is actually the first day I'm doing something which is professional and different. And even to this end, I must thank the MMA. The MMA has created for itself, in my mind, a stature of respect, and therefore a request from the MMA I am not in a position to deny or even negotiate. This is the impact this organization has had on me, who didn't even know MMA existed a year and a half back. So as you go through life, remember, it is key to find ways to earn the respect of various people you meet in your life journeys. Once you gain this respect, either through leadership or through management, through friendship, through integrity, through quality, through whichever way, it makes a difference. what is most interesting to me is the topic that has been given to me of leadership and purpose. Now, leadership is something that all of us talk about and we're quite used to. Purpose, like I was just speaking to Group Captain Vijay before this, this session has actually given me purpose. Uh, Today is the 29th day of my being sick, and today is the first day I have shaved. Today is the first day I have worn a full trouser and a shirt and a pair of formal shoes and a tie. Uh, Purpose. If had not been for this session, I would have probably spent today also in bed, lying down, coughing, feeling bad like an old man. But purpose. The topic, the symposium, and this conversation has actually given me the purpose. So, thank all of you all for listening in and tuning in and paying attention to what I'm going to say. Thank the MMA for giving me this opportunity. So, let's start at the very beginning. Before you actually think whether I'm actually in service or I'm just, masquerading as a lieutenant general, that is me on your screen. Yes, I'm a slightly thinner version of what you see on the screen, but that is what COVID does to people. So please be very, 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 very careful in what we do till such time all of us have a vaccine and are protected from this horrendous ailment. It is a terrible ailment, but that is me, and that is how I normally look. So great. Let's start by welcoming all of you all to the session. I completely respect your right to disagree. You can even dissent. My email ID is at the base of all your slides, so you're most welcome to write to me and say, sir, I just do not agree with anything you say. I'd be most happy to have a conversation. I have nothing new to say to you because leadership is something that all of us have heard about all our lives. So you already know everything I say. So I just want you to enjoy the next few minutes. Take the subject like life. I have chosen today to wear a light blue shirt and a grey tie. Somebody may have chosen to wear a white shirt. Some of you all at home may log in wearing a t-shirt. Some of you all may be wearing a pair of shorts or a vesti or a gown. Somebody may be dressed in a suit. Choice is yours. This topic is exactly like that. What you choose to do with it is entirely your choice, and also how. This, to me, is the key to leadership. When you stand in front of your team and you espouse an idea, you have to be prepared to accept that what you say may be wrong. Similarly, everybody in your team has an ability and must have an ability to believe that what they say could be wrong, which means that the other person could be right. And that is, in a sense, the secret or the power of good argument. And this good argument is what actually leads us to great results in organizations. So brilliant. How do we see ourselves? So do we see ourselves as just employees? Many of you all are management students at the moment, students at various colleges, not necessarily only management. Do you see yourself just as students? When you join an organization, do you see yourself as an executive, a glorified clerk, a keeper of policies? So this is my instruction, this is what I will do. How do we see ourselves? Researcher, maybe, supervisor, manager. Like I said, you have one essential additional choice: leader. Do we see ourselves as leaders? Now, my argument is very simple. All of us are leaders. Within a couple of minutes of a child being born, the child starts displaying the initial characteristics of leadership, which is an ability to influence people. When the child feels hungry, it will start crying. When the child wants attention, it will start crying. It quickly realizes that this crying or communication is a means of influencing people around it, getting them to do what that child wants. That is leadership. Now, if that be leadership, all of us as we go through life are leaders at various stages in various forms. We always have options. We analyze those options, and from those options, we come to a decision. That is the essence of leadership. So, my argument is all of us are leaders. We just need to see ourselves as leaders, for which there's one critical component which we will talk about. So, is this leadership role proportional to our designation, title? Do I have to be a lieutenant general to be a leader? Are all lieutenant generals leaders? Are all chief executive officers of all companies leaders? Is the CIO or the CTO or the CFO or the COO, are they all leaders? Or is leadership just displayed by a few people in an organization? Is that person who brings tea to your office? Is that cook or chef in your hostel, college hostel? Is that security person in your college hostel? Is that person a leader? What is it that makes that person a leader then? That is something that we've got to consider, because there is no designation in the world. There is no contract in the world that obligates anybody to deliver leadership, because leadership is intangible and it functions at multiple levels across life. So if you were to say that I will become a leader when I become the principal, I will become a leader when I become the general manager, will it just change because you have an appointment letter? Or is it something that is inherent in all of us? Now, my argument is leadership is inherent in all of us. We need to be able to turn it on. And that once you do that, it's an automatic process. So just listen to this very carefully. Across organizations and structures, significant responsibility rests with and is vested in authority. Some of us are given the responsibility and the authority to deliver leadership at multiple levels. However, what is also very important is everybody else in the organization has a responsibility. With the responsibility, also the power, which is disproportionate to position or title. So the junior most employee in an organization can actually display outstanding leadership skills, whereas actually the top hierarchy of the organization may suffer from inadequate display of leadership skills. It's completely possible, and it is common. It occurs every day as we see. So what all does leadership comprise? So many things. There is obviously ownership. There are obviously teams. It's great communication, that's a requirement. There is happiness, and there's an organizational culture. I've left purpose on purpose for the end. Now, the definitions of leadership are quite well known. We'll discuss them very briefly. But I'd like to highlight on the word purpose. This is my 726th session. I have to confess that so far I have used many adjectives to describe leadership. I have heard many thousands of definitions of leadership, but I haven't heard the word purpose. And I feel inadequate now. I wish I was introduced to this word purpose much earlier. From now, I will make it a point to include purpose in all my conversations. So purpose is a beautiful word in many ways. Let's look at the definition of the word purpose itself. Purpose on its own means intention. It means aim. It means a reason for doing something. So let us say you're an engineering student. Why are you doing the engineering course? Is it just to be an engineer? Is it just to get a job? What is the purpose of you being admitted in an engineering college or a management college or doing a master's in English literature? Purpose means allowing something to happen. It actually means facilitating that particular thing to happen, making it happen. Purpose is also determination. Purpose is the reason for doing something. These are just the dictionary meanings of the word purpose. Let's look at the other words which are synonyms of purpose. Start with ambition, aspiration, dream, destination, design, end, expectation, hope, mission, intent, objective, whole idea, why and what for and wherefore, what's the motive, what's the scope, what's the target. These are the words. Since you're a young people, you probably are happier to see it in a cloud. So this is what a broad cloud is of what the word purpose is. Now, the word purpose in many ways is the bedrock on which the rest of leadership is built. So only if you have purpose can you become a leader. So look at a good cricket team. Of the people in the cricket team, the one who has the greatest purpose, determination, and other related qualities goes on to become a great captain. You may be a great player, but if you don't have that purpose, you may fail to become a great leader or a great captain. So in organizations, this is something you may have read very often. This is what this gentleman has said, Mr. Warren Bennis. If he had to pick one factor that makes a difference, that would be leadership. So a good leader can turn around a mediocre outfit into an outstanding unit. A mediocre leader can actually destroy a great unit into a very mediocre or an average unit. And the examples of this in corporate world are plenty. We can see it in our schools, we can see it in our college teams, we can see it in every day activity of life. A great leader will change the way a small restaurant is run, a poti kadai, a tea shop. A bad leader will destroy a fantastically functioning restaurant into nothing in a matter of months. That's the effect of leadership. Now, if I were to ask you what you see on the picture, some of you all will tell me I see, colored solids. There are trapezoids. Somebody may see, I see a red pyramid on the middle right of your screen. Some may see, sir, these are just random shapes. What leadership does, when a leader comes across, myriad shapes like this, he or she puts their leadership skills together and figures out that what they actually saw was this. But this is just the one part of leadership. It's the ability to see through that clutter and see the future. That's the easy part. It is difficult, but it's the relatively easier part. The more difficult part is to get those random pieces which were in random order and put them in the sequence within a specified time at a specified expenditure of cost, resources, and human capital with a view to make a profit and to sustain this structure in the long term. Now, these are the traits of a technically skilled manager as well. This is where, to be a great leader, you must require great management skills as well. It's a key component, it's not divorced. There is no leader who can just be a leader without being a great manager. Can you be a great manager and not be a leader? Possible. So in the pecking order of hierarchy, managers are those who provide the technical expertise to go to a desired destination. A leader is a person who identifies that destination, that target, and gets together the rest of the team to move from where they are to where the organization desires them to be. That is leadership in a nutshell. So if that be leadership, what all does it comprise? There are so many things. There is you could say it's a state of mind because change begins here. You could say it's about character because leadership comprises so many different characters of the human mind. Is it the ability to create a bond? Of course it is. Is it the ability to articulate a vision? Of course it is. All of these are important. Critical for leaders to believe that everything can be achieved only in partnership. So for a leader, the single most unimportant word is I. And the single most important word is we. We can do it together. We made a mistake. I made a mistake. You were great in what you did. Let's make this happen. These are common phrases which leaders must use. The more often you use them, the more robust your leadership skills will get. So let's look at a leader's DNA in very short. A leader's DNA, and I am saying that all of us are leaders, should we choose to be. That's the critical component. So in all our DNA, a leadership DNA, we should see these 6 major qualities. I will not talk about all of them, just talk about a couple of them in very brief. And they're all fairly self-explanatory. The first is very simple. You must have a drive and a passion. In the topic for today, you could cover drive and passion under the heading of purpose. If you're able to give what you have to do, the drive and passion, give it the energy, show the initiative, seize the opportunity, and be persistent, much like the ants that you see on your screen, it will make a difference. There are many words of describing drive and passion. We see it on a daily basis. Passionate people are involved with their jobs. You can see it, whether it's a mechanic, whether it's a traffic policeman, whether it's a waiter or a chef in a restaurant, or whether it's the CEO or senior manager in any other organization, whether it's somebody in your own family. Passion is clearly visible. When leaders describe passion, that passion spreads across the team, and that is what enables success. Next is very simple. It's ownership. It's the willingness to take responsibility. It's the ability to say, I own this hall. I will make this happen. I am responsible. It's a desire to lead. This is what makes a great player a great captain. Now, the male lion is typically not a great example of a leader. For many reasons, we will not discuss them at this moment. Maybe sometime later, if you get an opportunity to come to your colleges or your institutes, I'm most happy to discuss any aspect of the session separately. But a desire to lead, you normally see it better in the lioness. And the reason is simply there at the top right of the screen, it's ownership. A lioness takes ownership of the pride of the cubs, of fostering the next generation. That is ownership. And that is why the lioness is a better example of a leader. I want to make it even better. It's probably there right there on your screen. It's not about the cheetah. It's the motherhood. Of all the levels of leadership, there are 4 of them. The lowermost one is at which most of us, like me, uniform function. It's brutal. It's by rule. It's authoritative. It does not discriminate. It works only by law, not by heart. That's the lowermost level. The next level is of respect, which is limited to a specific field: physics, drama, hockey match, cricket match, kacheri, limited to that particular. Anybody who's recognized there is a leader in that aspect. Next one is of greater respect or admiration. We see them in our families all the time. Old people, senior people, the college principal. They may not have education, but we consult them on major events, marriages, buying land, looking for a new job, buying a house. You consult people. They may not have the education, but they have the wisdom or experience so many years. But the highest level of leadership is selfless, where you do something for somebody without expecting something in return. That is what we see in our mothers most of the time. That's the highest level of leadership. So ownership, mentoring, and selfless leadership actually have to combine together to give you the highest quality of leadership. Integrity, very simple. It's about doing the right things. Never ever lie. The day you have to lie as a leader is the day you started climbing down. Please remember this. Organizations will respect a leader who has the ability to stand up and say, I've made a mistake and I was wrong. These were wrong decisions which I took. Uh, I will rectify them, and I need your support going forward. You will be extremely well respected. Should you lie is the day you start creating a downfall in your organization. So please remember, it is better to fail with honor than to succeed by fraud. 320 BC. It's not a new quote, so it's valid to this day. Intelligence, all of us have intelligence. You are currently acquiring a wealth of knowledge in the organizations and institutions that you're studying in. Please use all that knowledge to solve problems. If you can combine that knowledge with a little bit of vision, what will happen is you will start being able to predict the future. You'll start creating the change, which is a critical component of leadership. Once you're able to foresee requirements, you will predict outcomes. That is when you start being called a transformative leader or a thought leader. Once you chart courses, you will start making correct decisions by solving problems of day after tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or 10 years from now. If you're able to see the future like this, you will start becoming a leader very quickly in any organization. So please use your intelligence exactly for what it is intended for. Of course, there is obviously a need to create a vision. Once you've created a vision, please focus on the vision that you've created. It's very important. Don't let that vision go away from you. So if your vision is of getting an 85% score in your exam, so be it. That's a vision. If your vision is of acquiring 2 extracurricular skills, if your vision is of saying, I also want to participate in at least 5 dramas, I also want to write 3 papers in this semester, I also want to intern with at least 2 different kinds of companies in this year, those are visions. Don't allow clutter of daily life to move away from the focus of your vision. Very important. Once you have a vision, please set a goal. Please do remember, goals must be simple. While purpose is important in leadership, it's also important to identify correct purpose. If the purpose sets your ambition at a level far beyond your capability, you will face failure. It must stretch you a little bit, but it shouldn't stretch you so much that your teams fail. That's very important. Monitoring and helping people as you go through life, you have to learn to be a mentor to somebody else. All of y'all are senior students or practitioners of management. Ask yourself, are you currently mentoring anybody? Are you able to make a difference to somebody's life? If you are well on your way to being a great leader. Motivation, very important. You may ask, who do I motivate? The answer is very simple. You motivate yourself first. Leadership and motivation starts here with yourself. Once you motivate yourself, the rest of the organization will be motivated automatically. That's a promise. You have to try it. So when you say office time is 9 o'clock, you must be the first person to reach the office at 5 minutes to 9 and be ready to start work at 9. Do that for 10 days. You'll see your entire team coming into the office at 9. That is how it works. Now the question is how. This is a part of the session normally where I have actually a couple of stories to tell, but because of the paucity of time and the format of this symposium, I will refrain from these stories. But the bottom line is, find something in your organization that is worthy of being woven into the fabric of history. It could be a brilliant clerk who came to the office despite illness. It could be a lady who came despite her mother being sick. It could be a lady who came despite her children being sick. It could be a gentleman who came to the office despite his mother being admitted in the hospital because he knew this was also required. It could be somebody who knew that something had to be delivered in a particular time and continued to work in the office till that report was finalized. These are stories. Use these stories, capture them, put them on the walls, put a sticker, put a photograph, give people social recognition, rewind these stories again and again and again. The more often you tell them, the more cement will get into the foundation of your organization. People will remember the legacy and the history of these organizations. Please remember, organizations are not made by chrome and steel and big buildings of concrete, made by human beings. If you are able to concentrate on the human beings, your organization will remain strong. That is the power of motivation, and that is the power of sharing stories. Any stories. They don't have to be stories that involve death or bloodshed, any stories. Others' dreams, most important. I've got an MBA seat, I've got an engineering seat, I've got a job in Larsen and Toubro, I've got a job in the Murugappa Group, I've got a job in, TVS. Can I help somebody else get a job? Small job, big job, doesn't matter. Can I focus on somebody else's dreams? That's what will give my life purpose and give my leadership the strength. Share the excitement. Every day is a great day. So today, thanks to you and the MMA, like I said, after 28 days, today I've actually got out of bed, shaved, wore. So after the session's over, I'm going to have my first cup of coffee in 29 days. Unfortunately, it's not going to be filter coffee and a slice of cake. That's my celebration. So share the excitement. Every day is a great day. Every moment is a great moment. Celebrate others' joys. That is what strengthens leadership. You have to develop tasks and people. This is needless to say, it's quite self-explanatory. Involve everybody. Everybody in your team brings some strength. Everybody is not good at the same thing. Don't have a common filter through which you look at everybody. Have an individual lens through which you analyze and assess people's strengths. Use their strengths and your team will prosper. Communication, self-explanatory. If you are a leader and you cannot communicate, you have no leader. You can have all the purpose in the world. If you're unable to communicate, you will not be a leader at all. Do remember, in modern organizations, notwithstanding the power of e-communication that we have and the spread of WhatsApp, the power of the spoken word and the gestures that accompany that open word and the warmth which you can convey in person is priceless. Please remember this. 150 texts or emails can be replaced by one normal conversation. So that's the power of it. Working from home makes things a little difficult in this sense. But whenever we get past this, or whenever we get an opportunity, we must exploit this. A leader's role has got so many roles. You can see them all. You have to be from a colleague, teacher, advocate, listening board, motivator, guide, judge, friend, critic, driver, follower, advisor, student. I've highlighted the words follower and student simply because no leader is perfect, and a leader has to continuously learn from the rest of his team or her team. The day you stop learning, the day you stop becoming a leader. Simple. So if you want to be leaders who evolve, these two are critical, and that's why they are outlined. But through this process of creating a vision, right down to mentoring and counseling, facilitating change is a critical component of a leader. Why is it a critical component of a leader? Because change is much like the DNA that you see on your screen. It's happening as we speak. It's happening as you're listening to me. It is continuous. It is consistently constant. As I speak and you listen, there are changes happening in your body, in your minds. This will happen. In complex organizations, it becomes a lot more difficult because the number of factors are so much more and their intensity is so much more. So as a leader, you must identify your purpose to go navigate through this change that is constantly occurring all around you. And that is the big challenge of being a great leader. Leaders are those who create leaders. So you can ask yourself, I've come from a small village in Salem district, very good. I come from an agricultural family. I'm the first person to come to Chennai and study. I'm the first person to get an MBA. Very good. How many more can you create from your own family or your village? That will define for me your leadership status. If you can do it, somebody else can do it. If you've done it, find them a way to do it. This is what leaders do. At least this is what good leaders do. Creating followers is a matter of structure of a legal contract. I'm a general manager, so there's an assistant general manager, there's a senior manager, there is manager, assistant manager, junior assistant manager, intern. So these are structures. That's not what leaders do. Leaders create leaders, at least in the mind. So in tomorrow's world, this is what you'll be expected to do. You have to anticipate changes. Based on the anticipation, you have to interpret them. Once you interpreted them, you have to identify challenges to your own organizations. You have to learn from what it is, align the resources of your organization, decide and act. Once you acted, that cycle is over. The next cycle will then start of anticipation once more. Now, while all this is happening, you're also expected to display the other leadership traits which are common. And there are any number starting from wisdom to decisiveness to endurance to enthusiasm to humility to ruthlessness to aligning to handling change to being just and being fair to having knowledge. So many of them. That is the challenge of modern day leadership. Now, through all this, we talked of purpose. If you can bring down your purpose after everything that the organization has given you to these 5 attributes, you would have done extremely well to be a great leader. It's quite simple: generosity, respect for others, ability to take action, there's compassion, think with your heart, there is energy. Quite simply, if you can deliver to your organization and to your teams everything that we've spoken so far with grace, you'll be a great leader. While doing this, please remember, if you can spread joy and happiness, khushi as called in Hindi, you would have done a great job, because a happy leader is also a good leader, because he or she gets more followers not just because they're good at their job, because they're able to generate happiness. Just a single thought on change, they're not thoughts on change. You'll see this in many of your management books, but this is my theory. What we see outside, what is taught to you in your college curriculum, what is encompassed in exploding pie charts and graphs and data, is the organization, the rules, and the systems. They are only 10% in any organization. IT organization, serious high level AI systems oriented organization, it may have only 30 people. It may be delivering multi-million dollar revenue. It's still 10%. The emotions, culture, and the people comprise 90%. So as leaders, while the first 10% is critical, the 90% is as important, if not more important, because it is not often seen, yet it has a huge effect on our outputs. So in my definition, what the 10% is the head and the 90 is the heart and soul of any organization. So if you can get the members to win, your organizations will win. This is also a particular style of leadership where the employees or the members or the teams come first. We can talk about that later. But the supreme lesson through all this is to enjoy what you do. You cannot run at a sprint all your life. You need to take a break. I just want to ask you, many of you all may have had hobbies in school. It may have been a silly hobby like collecting matchbox labels or stamps or coins. Somebody may have liked to sing, somebody may have liked to dance, somebody may have liked to play chess. How many of you all still pursue those hobbies? And if the answer is not many, why not? Please grab these hobbies and pastimes that gave you pleasure. It could be flying a kite. Please fly it. It could be playing marbles. It could be anything at all. It could be just listening to music. Please do that. Whatever gives you happiness, don't let go of it as you go through life. Your life at work will always be a very small component of your life outside work. Please remember that. Don't let work cloud everything else that we do in life. I want you to remember this quote as you go through life. You and I are challenged to be architects of the future. Because if we are not architects of the future and we don't have the purpose and the leadership to change the future, we will then become defenders of a decline. And that is a dismal future for us to be. So that's not something we must choose. Now, as far as leadership or change or progress or happiness, individually or in an organization, don't look outside. Don't look at somebody else to deliver happiness to you. Don't look at anybody else to deliver leadership to you. It's an inside job. You are responsible leaders. Maybe small, maybe large, but you are leaders. Exercise that, you will prosper. This is a slide I used for Coke, which I did a session for recently, so I'm just replicating it. Quite simply, where do you see yourselves as leaders? I just read out some portions. In your time horizon, are you short term or long term? In your attitude, are you the relaxed, chill leader, or are you somebody who's leaderholic? Type A, my style, do this. What is your style? On a leadership continuum, where are you? Are you authoritative? Are you participative? Are you communicative? Are you democratic? What kind of a leader are you? In terms of being a specialist or a generalist, how are you? Are you the kind who says, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I become the CEO now, but I'm still only going to look at the factory floor? Have you become a generalist? In terms of style, are you the coaching type? Are you the teaching type? Are you the mentoring type? What are you? In terms of vision, size and scope, how are you? Are you the practical leader who looks at small leaps and bounds while having the larger picture in mind? Or are you the kind who can look at 10 years ahead from now, straight? Both are skills. Where are you? In terms of inspiration, where are you? Do you have the ability to transform people? Can you influence people to do what they can do to the best of their own abilities? Where are you? And last but not the least, we may all see ourselves in a particular manner. The question is, how do our teams see us? That's critical. Last but not the least, what will be your leadership legacy? 25 years down the line, I will definitely not be around. 75 years down the line, most of you all who are listening to me also may not be around. 150 years from now, none of us who are participating today will be around. Will you have a legacy? And if so, what will that legacy be? What would you like it to be? Do we have an ability to change it? The answer is yes. Please try and do it. Lastly, different kinds of leadership. Would you like to be the leader who walked a straight line? Or would you like to be the leader who went all over the place? What would you like to be remembered for? Choice is ours. The key to happiness through this process of education, job, marriage, children, parenthood, growth, mutual funds, stock shares, new car, this entire gamut of life from birth to death, there is a happiness key. My argument is very simple. Please keep that key of happiness with you. Always. Now, when you keep it with you, you will find that pesky neighbor who irritates you will look like this. Your boyfriend or your girlfriend's mother who troubles you all the time will look like this. That neighborhood auntie who's always wondering, later why is he not come home early, will look like this. And this bald lieutenant general who's been talking to you for the last half an hour will look like this. Key to happiness has to be with you. Then this is how you will see life. It's the small changes, everyday changes that will give you staggering results. I've spoken about so many things, impossible to do all of them 100%. Very much possible to do all of them 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20%, depending on your capability. So make the small changes. I'd like you to enjoy this view on your screen. This is something all management students enjoy. What I'd like you to see is this view. This is what leaders do. So I want you to be able to take your entire team to enjoy a view like this. This is when teams get stretched to the extent of their capability and deliver optimally. So my prayer for you is, may your life always be filled with views like this. And at the very end, these are a few books which I've referred to for the use during this little presentation. Lastly, I hope you always find a reason to smile. With that, I have finished, and I'd be very happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you. Jai Hind, and it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure.
Is leadership a permanent position? Isn't it determined by the purpose, which could be either a short term or a long term purpose?
Purpose can be a short term one or a long term one. It's defined by the circumstance and our ability to think, our influence on our systems and resources that surround us, and the outcomes that we expect. A short term purpose doesn't make it wrong. As long as 5 short-term purposeful goals fit into each other to create a long-term purpose goal, it serves the point. Now, as far as leadership, whether it being a position, I have already made an argument that all of us are leaders. The fact is, there is no organization in the country which gives out a contract to anybody and says that leadership is expected of you. Apart from the one title in the armed forces, in the Air Force of squadron leader, the word leader is not there in any title. Where is the CEO of a large multinational corporation expected to show leadership? It is not even built into their contract. Yet it is expected. My argument is that everybody who works for an organization is a leader in their own rights, in their own spheres. The lady who runs the pantry, who provides tea to everybody, if she or he, that boy, tea boy, does their job completely, honestly, and passionately, they own that little pantry, they become leaders. And their leadership skills will be evident to everybody around them. And it spreads, it is contagious. So there is no issue with purpose being short term or long term, but both are as important.
Mahatma Gandhi and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose were leaders with contrasting styles of leadership but with a common purpose. As a follower, how does one choose the leader in such situations?
Although leadership is a physical activity, leadership in many ways is a mental activity. The outcomes of good leadership can be seen in the physical form, yet leadership remains largely a mental activity. It is confined to the space of our brains. Each of us is wired separately, and we are not capable of fighting with our basic design. So inherently, now although you have identified that despite having the same purpose, which is to gain independence, there were two contrasting styles of leadership. One was the more robust, aggressive, if I may use the word military, forceful style. The other was the passive, non-violent, non-participative, yet fairly robust in his own way style. Now, despite these two differences, there are many common threads between these two. You could start with vision. You could start with commitment. You could start with sacrifice. You could start with ability to communicate. You could start with ability to organize. You could start with ability to travel, to put yourself at difficulty, to self-sacrifice and be selfless for the larger cause of humanity or the country. These are a whole lot of common threads across these two leaders. So who do you choose to follow will come from your own design. If you just pick the common threads between these two leaders, you'll find so many of them common. Now, these are not related to personality. They are just related to common leadership things. This is how we pick our leadership styles. Now, there will never be another Mahatma Gandhi. There may never be another Subhash Chandra Bose. However, there can be an Arun or a Sanjay or a Sunita or a Lakshmi or anybody else who's able to pick 5 good qualities from both these leaders or from 10 other leaders, inculcate them in our own style. After all, nobody would want all of you all who are listening to the lecture to be leaders of the same style. Then we will have every leader who takes the same decision. We will have no variety. We will have no change. We'll have nobody who thinks differently. So please pick good qualities which you can apply from the many leaders you see around you. Put them into your own integral mixie, Sumit mixie, turn it on, and whatever the output comes will have your own flavor to it. And that is the kind of leadership that we are looking for. It must have your flavor.
What leadership traits are taught in military academies which make them such good leaders, which could also be taught by the management institutions grooming corporate leaders?
Two things. At all military academies, there is a smorgasbord of how leadership traits are inculcated. So first is through formal teaching. So we, go over analysis of old leaders who are acknowledged, recognized world over, and what traits they displayed. That is one. The other and more useful method is what they see. So when you see your instructors and your teachers at the academy, you actually see examples of good leadership and you learn from them. So what are the things that you learn from them which are not taught in the book? Respect for time, importance of good turnout, importance of correct civil behavior, parliamentary conversations. I can disagree with you, but I don't have to be disagreeable. There has to be a way of disagreeing with you within the realms of politeness. These are things which you learn without curriculum. Within curriculum, you learn so many different traits of leadership, starting from integrity to discipline to perseverance of the aim to stubbornness to identification of correct human potential to utilizing correct person for the correct job, optimizing resources that are available to you. But the two things that I would like to highlight. First, I think is integrity. Quite simply, it is doing the correct things. Now, whether those correct things are what are taught to you at home, whether they are what is laid down by the ethics and principles committee of your organization, whether it is within the realms of the law of the land, all these together combine what is called integrity. It is doing the correct things. What happens when you do the correct thing is you start gaining respect of people. When you start gaining respect of people, you will automatically have a team that is willing to go with you wherever you go. That is what all leaders want. Whether you're the CTO of a company or the CFO or the head foreign taxation, if you have all the lawyers who are willing to go with you on the route that you want, you will win the case. End of story. So I think first is integrity. The second, and I will highlight only two, but there's so many of them. The second one is selflessness. This is something that is more often found in uniform than in outside uniform. I have no offenses intended to those who have not worn a uniform in their lives, but it is simply a structure of what we do. And because in our business there is life and death, therefore there is more selflessness. But a great degree of selflessness also exists in many companies, and they are visible. Where they are followed by leaders, those leaders become outstanding pillars of their organization. It is those leaders who take the time off and invest in some junior colleagues, invest in their education, invest in their furtherance, maybe even help them get better jobs outside their own organization so that they grow better. So what happens is, let's say Wipro. In Wipro, let us say you had, they're saying Wipro, it could be any other company. Let us say you had a senior manager who took interest in a junior colleague. made sure that the junior colleague got the correct education, the correct short courses, the correct exposure to presentations, to boardroom discussions, and then helped that person actually move from Wipro to another company, let us say overseas, to some company in Finland or Austria or the US. 3 years down that line, that person, after having gained experience there, will find his or her way back to Wipro. Because all of us at the end of it have a moral obligation which we want to repay. Now, this is what strengthens Wipro in the long term. So, although that person was not mandated to do so, that person invested selflessly in the people of his or her team. And that will come back to pay great dividends in the long term. This is how institutions are built. Organizations are not built by people who work for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. Then your loyalty is to the paycheck and not to the organization. Institutions are built over the long term.
COVID has really wreaked havoc on individuals, families, jobs, and industries across the world. What lessons can corporate leaders take from the military in keeping the morale of their staff members high?
Very difficult. I start by saying very difficult. I'm also talking from experience now. Till I was admitted in the hospital with very serious COVID symptoms, I was also not aware of the impact of the ailment. You see, when the ailment started, we didn't know anybody in our circle who had COVID. Somebody had, somebody in the newspaper, somebody top floor, 11th floor, somebody in apartment had, they sealed his apartment. That is how it was. As time is going by, all of us now have in our midst somebody or the other who has contacted COVID. So far, it may be people who contacted it but are asymptomatic. Here I am sitting in front of you. For 6 days, I was on complete oxygen support. It's a lonely ailment. While you're in the hospital, nobody can come and see you. The staff who comes to visit you are all equipped, protectively, so you actually cannot see anybody's face. They cannot also see many things because their eyepiece gets misted from inside. So any of your reports, they will read in the privacy of their room. All of them are also afraid because all of them are also family members. So they also spend minimal time. Many people have respiratory ailments, so they're coughing all the time. You're going through this alone. So what can companies do? Today, we have great mobile connectivity. Should any of your team members contact this ailment? Two things. First is to reach out to their families soonest. Second is to reach out to that person soonest. Every day, there must be at least 4 or 5 people in the office who must send that person messages, at least to stay positive and to stay strong. The other thing is, because of the COVID rush in the hospitals are not able to keep the families informed of what is happening with the patient. I will give you an example of Chennai. In the defense colony, there is a very senior lady. She's 81. Her son is serving in the army, fairly senior. He's admitted in the COVID ward. She's trying her best to find out about her son from me because she's 82. She's living alone in defense colony. She has no way of knowing what is happening with her son. Her daughter-in-law, who lives in Delhi, is also COVID positive, but at home. Her husband is in the hospital in Delhi. Auntie is in Chennai. This is typically what happens. So what can a CEO do to help communicate? Talk. 99.5% of people will come out of hospital. That is the truth. Every day those figures are going up because our ability to repair them is getting better. After they come out of hospital, typically people need about 2-3 weeks before they can start coming to work. That space must be provided. That support must be provided. You have to put your helping hand out. This has to be a conscious effort. It cannot happen automatically. Somebody must be checking up every day. It can be decentralized down to the sections or the department, but somebody must be speaking. And if possible, somebody must go to the house of that family where that person is admitted in hospital of COVID, and just bunch of grapes or a small this thing of apples and say, we are with you. It may cost money, it may cost some time. The long-term effects will be priceless. This is an ailment which none of us know how to handle. It is very new. Even the doctors are struggling with handling. Some treatments work, some treatments don't work. In my case, they tried plasma therapy. It didn't work. I had an allergy. So they had to give me an anti-allergic for one day after taking, but that's okay. They did it because they thought it would work for my own good. It just didn't work. This will happen. Now, in all this, should the organization give me support? I got tremendous support from my boss. My boss is a fairly senior person, obviously. I got tremendous support every day. It made a difference. So I leave it to the companies how they wish to structure support. But I think it's something that needs to be done with great deliberation.
Thank you, General Arun. It's always inspiring to listen to you. I'm quite sure the large number of students who are watch this your live talk must be really inspired not only to develop the leadership traits but also to join the Indian Armed Forces. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time in spite of your recouping and just recovering from your oxygen support. Thanks, sir. Get well soon. Indeed grateful to you.
Namaskaram, Yogacharini Maitreyi here to give you your transformational tip. How do we create comfort and concentrate despite chaos? So I'm going to give you a very simple breath and sound practice that will help us create clarity and become